Hey guys, welcome back to Down and Dirty Modding. Today we are going to be working on our Fractal R4 again, but I have a couple of things first. Number one, I have a website, amazingly enough, called insolentmods.com, where I'm going to be setting up a for sale page. And no, I'm not trying to sell you cases, but actually I might try to sell you cases. I wind up with a lot of extra parts and stuff I can't use from contests or case mods or just whatever. So I have a lot of extra parts sitting around collecting dust that I really don't have any use for. So I'm going to be setting up a page and throwing some stuff up there, and if you're looking for some hardware on the cheap or an extra set of case fans, something you're not finding on eBay or something like that, check it out. Maybe we can work out a deal. It's not a high pressure thing. Shoot me an email, shoot me a price. We'll work something out, and hopefully I can gain some storage space, and hopefully you can gain some components. But beyond that, who knows? Secondly, I want to thank everyone who shares me on Facebook and retweets me on Twitter and watches the videos and comments. I really do appreciate that. You help me get out to a larger audience than I actually have myself. And I've noticed a little bit of growth in videos and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that. Hopefully, you know, we can build it up to get more people in the scene and modding their cases and liven all this up a bit more. So let's get into our Fractal R4. Now, I've had a hard time figuring out where I want to take this case because just cleaning it up isn't really my thing. I've done it. They look great. And really, it's a very, very sharp case to work on. But I've gotten to the point now where I like moving things around and being quite different. And I've been accused of being a fabricator. And I probably shot them dumbfounded looks when somebody said that to me. Because I don't really think of it as fabrication. I just basically think of it as coming up with an idea and figuring out how to make that work. Which usually winds up being building stuff. So I guess therefore I am a fabricator. But I wanted to bring that to this case, but also to show you that some of this stuff that you see out there that seems kind of crazy or difficult or high skill level, honestly isn't. And it's not to take away anything from people doing the work. It definitely takes skill, but I think that skill lies in the vision and the design and figuring out how to make something happen, that the planning stages. I think that's where our skill lies, because a lot of the work is just work. It's once you get all that prefiguring done and know that you can do something, really it's just a matter of grabbing some tools and getting to it. So along those lines, what we are going to do today is replace our motherboard tray, which seems like a big thing. It's a major component of the case, and it really changes the look when you get rid of it. But in the end, it's a fairly simple mod. It's going to be drilling a couple of holes, cutting some acrylic. We're going to be using some 3/8 white acrylic. And really, the difficult part of this one has been just planning what we're going to do and how to make this work. Now, fortunately, I've already done this to a case before, and what it turns out to be is a lot of cases, or at least the few that I've done, the tabs that are riveted for our motherboard tray now are about 3/8 of an inch wide. So when we take 3/8 acrylic, it's almost a direct replacement for that tray. So the holes line up right. We don't have to make any sort of brackets or anything to hold the acrylic in. We're going to use the original holes in the back. We're going to drill a couple more in the front to hold the front up, and then we just have to go in and get our motherboard set and a few other things. So honestly, it should be pretty simple, and there's not a lot involved as far as money. I mean, acrylic is that's a 30 or 40, maybe a $50 sheet of acrylic with just a 2x2 3/8. We're going to need some screws and some inserts, and beyond that, it's just a bunch of work. So I guess let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing we're going to have to do is pull our motherboard tray. And for that, we're going to drill some rivets. This actually has some rivets in the back, on the bottom, and let me see if I can show you. On the most cases anymore, this tray actually goes up, comes across the top, and then you'll have a bracket across here that rivets in. So we'll have to drill those out too. So those 3 on the back, I got 3 on the bottom, and that'll let us pull our motherboard tray out. And then we can go in and measure our holes in the back. We'll transpose those up to the front, drill them, and I think at that point in time we'll check back in and see where we're going next. So let's get going. All right, now that was pretty simple. Basically, we drilled all our rivets, measured our holes in the back, transposed them up to the front, and drilled them out. Now, I did have a problem. The top hole in the front is actually where a wire pass-through is. So I won't be able to put a screw there, but I don't think it's going to matter as far as our structural support. So I'm going to go ahead and skip it. Now, if I did realize that it was a little weak and needed something else up there, I could just go down below that and drill a hole, mark it on my acrylic, and then put a screw in it right there. Now also on that pass-through, I had a lip on it that I had to go in and kind of file and Dremel off to make sure that our acrylic could sit flush against that front panel. Next, we're going to do some measuring, and we're going to cut a piece of acrylic using a jigsaw. And then hopefully we'll be able to slide it in here and get it all mounted up. So we've got our acrylic cut out, and there are a few things to remember about acrylic. Number one, I'm sure you noticed I didn't file or sand anything, and I'll probably go back and do that later. But with acrylic, you always want to buy cast acrylic. You can find it extruded online or at your local home store or whatnot, but that stuff gums up blades and bits and is just a nightmare to work with. Cast acrylic is very, very easy to work with for what we do, and it has a nice finish and comes in a ton of colors and transparencies and all sorts of things. Number two about acrylic is it's very brittle. So if you hit it with a hammer, it's going to shatter. When you're doing cuts with a jigsaw or something like that, you always want to support your work so it doesn't try to break itself off. You'll notice when I was finishing that cut, I was holding up on the back, because if I hadn't, that piece would have fallen and it would have shattered that corner off. Also, when you're drilling acrylic, you really should, you can use regular high-speed bits, but you have to be really careful because when they hit the bottom side of the piece you're drilling, they have a tendency to break and shatter that off. They actually make a set of bits. I think they have I think it's a 60-degree tip, or it's a sharper tip and a lot more pointed than your standard, you know, run-of-the-mill high-speed bit. And what that does is it gets through and drills through that acrylic without hitting it with a blunt end right at the bottom and shattering it out. So if you're going to be working with a lot of acrylic, I suggest getting some bits like that, or at least a couple in the sizes you need. The third about acrylic is, holy crap, it's a mess to work with. So you'll notice I had to do a little bit of cleanup. So now what we're going to do is slide this into our case, get it lined up where we want it, and mark our holes out. We'll pull it back out, drill the holes for our inserts, and basically you just tap them in with a hammer, and then we should be able to put it back in the case and mount it up, and I think we'll be done. So let's go ahead and get started on that. And there you go, a new motherboard tray. Pretty simple. You'll notice I put the back on first and got it mounted before I mounted the front and drilled the holes out and marked all that out. Basically because I like to have one solid end. That way I'm not trying to hold up this whole piece and measure both sides and not move something. If I get one solid end, it makes the other end so much easier to work with. Also, you'll notice I was pretty careful. I was trying to be pretty careful with the drill. Our holes went up kind of towards the edge of that acrylic, and you've really got to be gentle with it, otherwise you'll stamp that acrylic where you're drilling. Same goes with the inserts. If you beat on them too much or they're not the right size, you can break that acrylic out. So that pretty much takes care of putting a motherboard tray in. What we've got left to do is put the standoffs in for our motherboard, and also we do need some tabs or some holes up here for the tabs on our PCI brackets. That's a bit tricky because you're trying to put small tabs in. I always found that to be a pain, but it just takes a little bit of work. So that'll be next time, and hopefully this makes you want to try something kind of crazy. Makes it all seem a little easier. So until next time, guys, go out and mod something.